Hello, algebra students. Mr. Lawrence here, and this is a error test review, final review video all about zero and negative exponents. This is from Excel 7.1. So before we get started, just in case you never quite got this before, I've got this little table going on here where I have 2 to various powers, and I'm going to fill them in. I know 2 to the 4th. Remember, 2 to the 4th means 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, right? Don't think just, oh, it's multiplication, because then you'll tell me that 2 to the 4th is 8. When it's not, it's 16. Why? Because 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 is 16. All right, 2 to the 3rd. 2 times 2, that would be, times 2 is 8. 2 squared, of course, is 4. 2 to the 1st is 2. Now, many of you will get this wrong initially, 2 to the 0 power. You'll put down some ridiculous answer. You're not looking at the pattern. We have to ask ourselves, how do we turn 8 into 16? Well, we divide by 2. How do we turn 8 into 4? We divide by 2. 4 to 2, you guessed it, we divide by 2. So therefore, 2 to the 0 power must be 1. How did I get 1? Because 2 divided by 2 is 1. That's exactly what I did. See if you can fill out the remainder of this table. It says 2 to the negative 1st, 2 to the negative 2nd, 2 to the negative 3rd, 2 to the negative 4th. Go ahead and pause the video and take a second. See if you can do that in your notebook. All right, here we go. If I continue to follow the pattern, 1 divided by 2 would be the same as 1/2. 1/2 divided by 2, if I had half a pizza and I shared it with somebody, we would each have a 4th. 2 to the negative 3rd would be 1/8, and then 1/16 for 2 to the negative 4th. Now, I don't know if you realize this, but 2 to the 4th was 16. 2 to the negative 4th equals 1/16, right? Notice there's no negatives in my answer here. Okay, so a negative exponent means to use the reciprocal. A negative exponent means to use the reciprocal. So therefore, I could do 9 to the negative 2nd. Well, I know 9 to the 2nd is 81. 9 to the negative 2nd would be 1/81st. How? Well, I use the reciprocal. Yeah, if it's in the numerator, it's going to end up in the denominator. If it's in the denominator, it's going to end up in the numerator. This should be review for almost all of you. So a negative exponent means to use the reciprocal. Now I want to highlight also, make sure I'm talking about 0 power. Okay, any non-zero number to the 0 power, or the power of 0, is going to end up being 1. But you got to be careful with that statement. You know, these are true. 5 to the power of 0 is 1. 7 to the 0 power is 1. 0 to the 0 power would be undefined. Yeah, 0 to the 0 power would be undefined. But you got to be careful with something like this. Okay, because of the order of operations, I should be reading this as the negative of 7 to the power of 0. Well, what's 7 to the power of 0? It's 1. The negative of that is negative 1. So be careful with it. If I do this, I should get 1. Okay, but if I leave those parentheses out, I want the negative of that answer. All right, so now we know that any non-zero number raised to the power of 0 is 1. And we also know a negative exponent means to use the reciprocal. See what you can do with these problems here. Okay, I'll go ahead and pause the video. All right, here come my answers for these 4. So I'm going to have 5 squared is 25, so this must be 1/25. Now, this one here will show you why I didn't say a negative exponent means make a fraction. It doesn't mean make a fraction. It means use a reciprocal. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use the reciprocal to get rid of that negative, and that'll become 3/2. Now, there's still a 3 out there, and so now I have to cube 3, which is 27, and cube 2, which is 8. So 2/3 to the negative 3rd power is 27/8. Yeah, that's how that works. All right, x to the negative 4th is going to be 1 over x to the 4th. Okay, so x to the negative 3rd, y to the 5th. Well, only the x term has a negative exponent. Only the x term. So that's the only thing I'm going to use the reciprocal of. So when I do this, I'm going to have a fraction. the x to the third is going to end up in the denominator. The y to the fifth isn't going anywhere. It's staying put in the numerator. Okay, now before we talk about this last one here, some of you might be wondering why it's changing signs. So let's look at 3 to the negative second. Okay, well, we know 3 to the second, of course, is 9. And therefore, this answer must be 1/9 because we have to use the reciprocal. Well, what's another way to say 9? Isn't it 3 to the second power? And if you look, this 3 to the negative second power is in the numerator with a negative exponent. This one's in the denominator with a positive exponent. So when I use the reciprocal, the power stays the same. The absolute value of the power stays the same, but the sign actually changes. Okay? Go ahead and try this one here. 5 times x to the negative 7th. Here comes my solution. Did I fool any of you? Did any of you put the 5 in the denominator? You can't because the exponent on the 5 is a 1, right? There's multiplication here, but that negative 7 exponent, that doesn't apply to the 5. It only applies to the x, okay? So what would you do with a problem like this? Let's see here. Let's go 12x cubed y squared z over 16 x to the 4th, y to the negative 7th, and we'll do that to a z. Well, to handle a problem like this, first we're going to simplify the 12/16. Yeah, pretty easy. We're going to take care of the 12/16. Then I'm going to go ahead and take care of the x's, and then I'm going to take care of the y's, and then finally I'll take care of the z's. Okay, so when I do that, 12/16 is going to be 3/4. How did I do that? I simplified. X to the negative third over x to the 4th. The x to the negative third is going to end up in the denominator like that times x to the 4th. Y squared in the numerator, and this y to the negative 7th is going to end up in the numerator as well. The z's are going to cancel out. They're not going to cancel out the z, right? Z divided by z is 1, right? Z divided by z is 1. 7 divided by 7, that's 1, not 7. So if you have something canceling out with multiplication or division, it's going to just turn to 1. Now, by the way, that's not the best answer. It would be 3y to the 9th over 4x to the 7th. If you're not sure how I got that, stay tuned for the next video because I will explain. Most of you know how I got that. All right, that's it for the video. Nice, short, and sweet. Mr. Lawrence signing off. Have a good night, everybody.